guys, how's it going? Today I want to show you how I fertilize and prune my hydrangeas. Both things are really easy to do, and I know that there's a lot of fear surrounding especially pruning hydrangeas, so I'm hoping to eliminate some of those fears for you today. There are several classifications of hydrangeas, and I'll show you a lot of them today and how to handle each one of them. Let me show you what to look for in the spring so that you know it's time to do both of these things. I've got a hedge of firelight hydrangeas back here, and if you look at this branch right here, you can see that those buds right there are starting to swell and show a little bit of green. That means we've got some active growth going on. And that's really important for both fertilizing and pruning, because if you put fertilizer down too early before the plant's even actively growing, it's still in dormancy. And if you have a real rainy season, it can wash some of that fertilizer away before the plant even has a chance to utilize it. So you want to make sure that the plant's starting to grow so it can start to actively use that fertilizer. And then with pruning, it's really easy once the plant starts to show those signs to see what's dead and what's not dead. So you can go in and prune out easily what's not living anymore, and then you can just kind of assess the shape and make a really good decision on where to prune things and what to prune. So let's talk about fertilizers and the different types you can use. I brought out a few different examples here. I'm going to try not to put my shadow on any of these. We got a nice sunny day. So let me start with the Hollytone and Plant Tone, because you know we work with Espoma quite a bit. And what they recommend, especially if you're growing hydrangeas that you want to have blue blooms on, they recommend you use Hollytone coupled with a soil acidifier. Now it will all depend on your soil pH, your soil chemistry, because you know some areas are more acidic naturally, and in which case you wouldn't need to use a soil acidifier. In my area, we are so alkaline that I could use a lot of Hollytone and a lot of soil acidifier, and I still probably wouldn't get a blue bloom because our soil is so high pH. I could maybe do it in a container. If you have hydrangeas you want to have bloom pink, or just the type of hydrangeas that bloom true to their color, no matter, like the firelight will always bloom the same color, you can't turn this one blue, and some are like that. Plant Tone is what they recommend for hydrangeas like that. However, I work with Proven Winners as well quite a bit, and I have gotten to be pretty good friends with one of the gals at Spring Meadow Nursery, which is the home of Proven Winners Color Choice Shrubs, so home of these beautiful hydrangeas. And she recommends Rose Tone because this is a fertilizer for woody flowering shrubs, which a hydrangea is. So I tried that out last year and had really great luck with it, so that's what I'm going to do this year. When it comes down to it, it really doesn't make a huge difference. It just kind of comes down to a fertilized hydrangea is going to do better than a non-fertilized hydrangea. So no matter which one you have, just use it. So I'm just following the instructions on the back of this bag. I'm going to show you how I do it right here on this one. It says to use 1 1/4 cup sprinkled around the drip line of each plant. And the drip line, it has a picture on the back of the bag. The drip line is the area right around the outermost leaves. So we'll just do a circle right around this shrub, right about here. So you can see that's the drip line right there, if that's helpful. And these are watered by drip right at their root ball. So I'm going to come around with a hose after this, after I'm done, and water in this fertilizer. So, oops, Russell's going to want to get involved here. So I'm just going to sprinkle it around like this. A little bit more, and then you just work it in with your fingers like this. We don't use any weed barrier over here or anything like that. If you have weed barrier, try to get the fertilizer underneath it if you can. You can go in closer to the trunk of your plant if needed, if that's the case, because it'll have a lot easier time getting to the roots that way and not trying to go through the weed fabric. So that's it. That's what I'm going to do to every single one of my hydrangeas, no matter what variety it is. They'll all get fertilizer like this, and I'll water it in today. Unless Russell digs it all away. So as far as pruning goes, there's kind of 2 groups of hydrangeas. Those that bloom on new wood that you can prune in the spring, and that includes Hydrangea paniculatas and arborescens. And then there's a group of hydrangeas that you should not prune in the spring because they bloom on old wood, which means that they've already formed their buds to bloom on last year's growth. And if you prune off too much of them, then you may forfeit your blooms for that year. And that group includes oak leaves, serratas, which are mountain hydrangeas, and macrophyllus, which are big leaf hydrangeas. And I have, I think, examples of every one of them except serratas. So I want to go around in my garden and show you each one of them and show you how I cut and what I cut out. So first of all, you can, like I said earlier, wait until the buds are a little bit more swollen so you can see a little bit better what's alive and what's not. I can pretty much tell, because I've been growing hydrangeas for a little while, what I need to cut out. But the first thing you want to do is Rule of thumb is to cut them down by about 1/3. And I could go a little bit more than that on some of mine, like our big limelights up front. But the whole goal is to always maintain a little bit at the base so that they can form a really good, strong, woody base. I do know some people though that cut them all the way back every year, but when you do that to keep them like in size check, that's usually why you would do something like that, you do forfeit some stem strength because you're not giving them enough time to create that nice woody base. So like in this case, I'm going to want to take my hydrangeas down by about this much or so and just create a nice rounded look and remove all these old blooms. So this is a perfect one right here. So I'm going to follow this branch down to this nice looking set of buds right here, and I'm just going to make my cut just like that. Now the other thing you want to look for is anything that's spindly. So look at this right here. See this spindly branch? We don't really want to encourage energy from this plant to go to this little spindly branch. So I'm just going to cut this one out altogether. And that's basically all I do on the paniculata hydrangeas, and it's exactly the same for arborescens. Let's head to the incredible hydrangeas I have next to our fireplace, and I'll show you just quick on those what I do. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 incredible hydrangeas in this hedge. I think once they're, I mean, they always look beautiful when they bloom, but once they're mature, it's going to be so gorgeous. And I was just looking at these buds. Check this out. This is what you want to look for. Look at those buds, nice and big and healthy looking. Now these I'm going to be doing a little bit more structural shaping, so I'm going to be taking these down a little bit further because some of these got smashed down at the garden center, and that's why I brought them home, because I knew that once I got them in the ground, they're tough plants, they would recuperate, and I was okay having some structural issues for a few years. So I'm going to want to cut these up a little bit differently because some of them look a little bit mangy. So this one right here, I'll show you. Ooh, we got a little breezy day today. We're going to follow this one down to this nice set of buds and cut. And so here's another one. This is a nice branch as well. We follow it down to that set of buds and cut. And then on this right here, we've got some spindly stuff. Like look at this one right here. Super spindly and weak looking. We don't want to perpetuate that branch. So that one's going to go away. And basically it's just kind of stepping back, assessing your plant, cutting out anything weak, and then shaping it up nicely. So now let's move to the other group of hydrangeas, and I'll show you what to do with those. So it just occurred to me that I didn't really explain myself. Like, you would continue to cut the entire plant until you've got the whole thing cut back nicely. I just wanted to show you some examples first, and then I do think we're going to bring you along for the whole cut back process, but we'll speed all of that up a little bit later. So this last one is an example of an oak leaf hydrangea, and you can see the old bloom right here. If you follow it back to this stem, you can see the new shoots for this year, which will be new blooms. So all we need to do on this one is just come down and cut the old bloom off, just like that. And it'll be just exactly the same for your macrophylla and serratas. All you're gonna do is remove the bloom stalk. You wanna make sure not to remove any new shoots or buds on those types. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is just run around the garden, fertilize all my hydrangeas, and get them all pruned. And we will speed this part up. For those of you who would like to see it more slow motion, like real time, we will post an unedited version of this on our highlights channel, and that way you can kind of see it happen a little slower if you learn better that way. So here we go. all trimmed up, fertilized, watered in. It always feels good when I get this chore done. So now all we have to do is wait for some new growth, which will happen probably pretty quick here. So I just wanted to end with, if you have a hydrangea and you do not know what variety or even what kind it is, I would definitely hold off on pruning. Just leave it alone until you can have somebody help you identify it. So take a picture of the bloom or take a bloom into your local garden center, see if they can help you out. And if you have a hydrangea that you've had in your garden for years and years and it's just not performing, not blooming for you, take it out and put a new variety in. There are so many wonderful varieties out there that can fit in all different kinds of locations. So I'm just kind of the mindset, don't keep fighting with something that's not giving back to you out in the garden. Put something in that will really fill you with joy when you see it, something that will really perform for you. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.